name's Yuen Li. I'm a Rescue 3 instructor for Rescue 3 International. Today I'm introducing a course called Recreational River Safety. And in it, primarily, we'll be learning about river crossings and how you can cross the stream safely if you're a hiker or someone enjoying the outdoors. So the most important thing in crossing a river is actually where are you going to cross the river. As the river is pretty long, you actually have quite a bit of choice. And do not get into a tunnel mindset to think that you have to cross in this river here. It's really worth scouting up and down the bank a few times to check for a safe place to cross the river. Very importantly, you must not be upstream of any hazards like waterfalls, weirs or strainers. Behind me is a really good point for crossing the river. The river may be wider, but if it's wider, it means that it's flowing slower. There's a really good entry point, and over there you can see a pretty good exit point where it's not too steep for people to come out. You can see the river bed is pretty flat. It's also quite sandy, so it's easy for people to step and cross the river. So when you cross a river, you have to have a what-if mindset. And you're always thinking, what if this happens? What if that happens? And do you have a plan for that? So the most important thing before you even begin in crossing a river is that all the people, and I mean every single one of them, knows what happens if they lose their footing and they start getting swept down the river. So they have to adopt what we call a defensive swimming position. So this is where you float on your back with your feet up out of the current. It's really, really important that you keep your feet up and do not try to stand up and do not try to put your feet down, because this can cause your feet to get foot entrapped. When you are in a calm and safe spot, then you can turn on your front and swim aggressively to the side. And kick your feet so that you make sure that your feet aren't dragging. You keep swimming until your stomach touches the ground, and that is safe for you to stand up. So obviously this is something that you need to practice before you begin your river crossings. Every one of your team members needs to know what to do in case they get swept down the river. It's really important when you're floating down the river, you do not put your feet down and try to test how deep it is. If you do, your feet can get trapped between the rocks and the current will push you over face down into the water. Foot entrapments are the biggest cause of drownings in rivers. So apart from choosing the entry point and the exit point for crossing the river, I also have to choose a point where I can do downstream safety. And I will be there with a throw bag in case anyone loses their footing, and I can always throw my throw bag at them and pull them into safety if they lose their footing while they're crossing the river. Throw bagging is one of the most important rescue skills that you can have. However, you really need to be trained properly in throw bagging. Once you start bringing a rope into a river environment, you're actually introducing a hazard to the environment. So you have to be very, very careful, and you have to be properly trained before you can use a throw bag. So before you throw your throw bag, it's important the victim knows that the rope is coming. The other thing that you do is to measure out the amount of rope that you have. So you throw only the amount that is necessary. Row! Row! Grab on with 2 hands. And you'll bring him to the side. So the perfect throw is where you throw the rope directly onto the victim. Try not to throw it upstream or downstream of them. So you want it to land right across their body. If you have a second person, the second person can assist by bringing the rope, by penduluming the rope in. In strong currents, you will not actually be able to pull the rope in because the person adds weight to the rope. So you need a second person to bring them in. Oh no! One more time! Second throw! And that's really important. Remain vigilant until they're actually on land. Okay, so you're all ready to cross the river.
Yes.
If you're wearing a backpack, really important, open your chest strap, take off your waist strap, and loosen your pack straps. Okay, so that anything happens, you can slip it off really, really quickly. Okay? Sorted out that we can take our backpacks off easily, and all of you have practiced floating down the river in the defensive swimming position, right? Now you're ready to cross the river. There are a few different ways for you to choose from. We're going to go through a few different ways so that you can decide which way works best for your team. So the first way is the line abreast. So what you want always to have your strongest and biggest team member upstream. And you form a line this facing the direction that you want to go. So all of you stand this way and link arms and walk across the river. I'm standing here downstream to act as downstream safety. Okay folks, as you cross, obviously it's really important for you to keep good communication among each team member, and don't step faster than each of you can move. Alright? So keep good communication, keep your arms linked, and if you do get swept, hold each other up and try not to let anyone get swept away.
Big rock in front.
So this is another style of river crossing where everyone is facing upstream. This tends to work better in stronger currents, where the first person forms and his body will form an eddy and will block the current for the rest behind him.
Left. Careful, Rocky. Okay. One more step. Left.
The two methods where they're crossing as a straight line work really well in places with nice, flat, sandy river bottoms. In Malaysia, we tend to have a lot of rocks on our rivers. So here's another way that works really well. We call it the wagon wheel. So what happens is that one person is static, like D will be static, and everyone will pivot around her. So everyone move. So pivot this way. Yeah, pivot this way.
Alright, alright.
You're like a rolling wheel. Okay. Okay, so saving the best for last. This is the most stable position of all time. This is called the wedge, where you start with one person, and then you have two, and then three. You can even add on more, and you can have a huge group of up to 15 people crossing. All right, let's go, guys.
Okay, let's go. One step on the left.
Yeah.
Okay, one more step on the left. Okay. One more step on the left. One more step on the left. Careful, slippery, Rocky.
If you're going to introduce ropes in a river environment, be aware that this is an advanced skill. It is not a basic safety skill. We only teach this in the 3-day swiftwater rescue course by Rescue 3 International. It's not part of the basic skills. Let me just show you a simple technique in which you can set up a rope as a hand line across the river. So, this is called a tensionless hitch. I have a basic figure 8 knot at the end, and I just have a carabiner and I clip it here. Most of the tension is actually taken up by the friction on the anchor. So this is actually loose. So it's really important that the first person who crosses the river only holds the rope with both their hands. They never ever ever tie the rope around their waist, and they never ever curl the rope around their wrist like that. This is really bad because you can pull off all the skin from your hands. As the first person crosses the river, I belay them across. So I release the rope a little bit by little bit as they walk across. So you want the rope to be taken in so that you have as little rope as you can on this end. And you want the rope to be at a 45 degree or more angle to the water. You never ever put the rope at 90 degrees to the water. Okay, this is the most common mistake that people make when they use a rope to assist them in the river crossing. This is the wrong thing to do. So do not do this. Do not have your rope at 90 degrees to the current. Do not have your victim upstream of the rope, because this is what will happen if you do this. This is the wrong way to do it. So if you have your victim at 90 degrees and they're in the current and they happen to fall, what's going to happen is that the rope will feed downwards and they're stuck in the middle of the rope. They will find it really hard to come up on either side, either on the left side or right side, because they'll have to go upstream on the rope. It's really, really hard. If this was a stronger current, his head, you will see the victim's head will actually have water over it. Water will actually flow over his head and his face will be covered with water. Okay, this is the correct way if you want to place the rope. The rope must be at an angle to the river current, and you have your person who's crossing downstream of the rope. Now, as he crosses, if he falls, what's going to happen is that the current will bring him down to the other end. And the shallower the current that you have, the steeper angle that you need. Also really important, you have a downstream safety person with a throw bag in case the victim slips and falls and lets go of the rope. You have a downstream safety person to throw them the rope. So always, again, be thinking about what if. So that's the basics of the Recreational River Safety course. Basically looking at the river environments and which are safe places and not safe places for you to cross. Different crossing techniques without using ropes, and of course using ropes as a safety backup. How you can use a rope as a safety backup in a river environment. You can take the River Rescue course with Nomad Adventure. We are the preferred training provider for Rescue 3 International. Or you can go to Corezone and find out more information about all the different courses and equipment that you can buy.